Hey, I'm Gavin, and I think I am in the kingdom of heaven. I think I know what it is, and my hope is that people who want to be in the kingdom of heaven um, would be helped with my words. And so the kingdom of heaven is when we are in the kingdom of heaven, we have the heart of God, and when we have the heart of God, we are filled with peace and unconditional love for all. And that feeling is amazing. I don't know if there's a better feeling. And I have done psilocybin mushrooms and marijuana, and I've had sex, and I've read great books, and I've watched great movies, and I've played a lot of video games, and I've ate great food, and none of it compares. None of it compares to the kingdom of heaven. And so, Matthew chapter 5 verse 3 says, Jesus teaches, and I do English. I use the English language, and the English language, I suspect that the English language has been corrupted such that it's difficult for people to learn the important truths. And so we will hear in what I have heard in the English language is that the phrase, his spirits are low, whenever people are sad or depressed. And so that phrase, his spirits are low, used when people are in grief or sad or depressed, confuses chapter 5, verse 3, where the English translation is often says something like, blessed are the poor in spirit. And so this doesn't make sense. In English, when we have these other sayings about the word spirit in relationship to feelings of sadness and depression and grief. The verse says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And so being in the kingdom of heaven right now, I can tell you that I don't feel sadness, I don't feel depression, I don't feel grief. I feel peace, I feel filled, I feel unconditional love. I feel something that's beyond all of these other experiences that I've ever experienced. They've been happening increasingly after I decided to practice making Jesus my king. They've been happening more frequently and for longer periods of time. And that's been happening as a result of fellowship with believers. And it's been happening with the help of others who want to help. And so we were created to want and to crave the kingdom of heaven, the peace, the deep peace, the heart of God. That knowing God is the experience of the deep peace and unconditional love and the kingdom of heaven. That's how we were created. And when we experience emotions, these emotions, is just a word, emotions can be interpreted as the word spirit. And so we experience spirits, we experience emotions. And so when we are in the kingdom of heaven, these spirits and these emotions are very small. They are like mustard seeds. They're very small. They're like little sprouts in the garden. And when we tend to our garden, which is on the inside, which is our heart, mind, and soul, and when we love God with all our heart, mind, and soul, and when we understand, Jesus is teaching to not only don't kill, but don't be angry, and not only don't commit adultery, but don't lust, and that when we give to the needy, we should not let the one hand know what the other hand is doing. Jesus is pointing at the inside, that the sin of murder and all the sin, murder, stealing, and adultery, and self-righteousness, those sins are rooted, they emerge from the inside, and on the inside is that garden in which we can learn to tend. And as we learn to tend it, we are transformed, and our insides are transformed into that which is on the inside of God, the Spirit of God. And God created this way such that we would experience these emotions and these spirits as indicators. And if we ignore them, they grow, just like in the garden. They sprout and they grow and they fruit, they blossom. And they are trying to grab our attention because we must care for them. We must tend our garden and care for these spirits and these emotions. And so they are important, but they are not the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is the result of tending the garden such that we don't allow the garden to be overwhelmed with these spirits. So it is the poor in spirit, is those who tend to their garden well and carefully in order to keep these spirits poor, to keep them minimized, is whenever we're able to hear the whisper from God, the gentle whisper. And when we do this, we end up with self-control, gentleness, patience, kindness, humility, love, goodness. We end up with many good fruit by tending to this garden within us and keeping our spirits low. And so the Holy Spirit, is God's Spirit, is what results whenever we tend to our garden to make sure we don't allow any of these other spirits to crowd out the Holy Spirit, God's Spirit, which brings good fruit that we can taste, we can experience it. And maybe some of you can see it. If you look at my past videos, you can see it in my energy and in my expressions, my facial expressions, my tone of voice. So yeah, let me know if you want to be in the kingdom of heaven and if you want peace. I think that's the first step, as I recall, looking back, is that I had to eventually seek peace. And when we find peace, we can go tell people about it. We can give a testimony. We can testify to what we witness. So, yeah, I think the people who believe that Matthew chapter 5 verse 3 is talking about something else other than what I'm talking about, I think there may be confusion, and that is understandable, because we live in a corrupted world, and we use a corrupted language, and so it is it is challenging to attempt to consider the truth while listening to while using a corrupted language in order to share the truth. That's a challenge. It's not easy. It requires effort, and it requires that we question our definition of words, and we question, yeah, that's what it requires. All right, let me know what you think.